one flicks me a bag baggy. So it's another one, yeah. It's a first run, yeah. Oh, it's another one, yeah.
Big up, Ray. Big up to the viewers who are staying up late on a work night. If you're in the UK or Europe, if you're over in America,
good afternoon.
Prime time, evening, afternoon, depending how far west you are. Ricco sends his apologies. The wuss has got ill. Hey, listen, it happens. I just went for a walk in the cold, a bit of cold wind, and now I've got a sniffle. So, yeah, I'm made 4 degrees heat. So, yeah, we all wish Ricco get well soon. So, Super Sub Ray comes in. RnR 2.0, Bukaya Saka, big up to you. Thank you as ever for joining. By the way, Bukaya, great performances over there in Germany. For England, keep it up. I'm glad you can join us just 2 days before.
Of course, he would tune in just before.
Yeah, of course he would. In fact, I'll be surprised if Bukaya tells, if we were doing this on match day, he'd tell Southgate, look, put me on the subs bench. I've got to watch the RnR hour.
I'm going to say we give a better pep talk than
Southgate. Yeah.
Yeah, at this point.
Tony Ellis, big up to you. We need Triple R. Oh, that sounds kind of Triple R. I don't know why. Just weird thoughts entered my head. It's probably
worried.
my mindset. But yeah, listen, Tony. Our lovely Aisha is working on a big iBoxingHub family get together some point this summer. So we might have a big show where all of us are there. Yeah. With Aisha to make sure we're all behaved. So right. So boxing as ever. Now we know out of the iBoxingHub family, you're the stern one. We need that big brother to keep some of the rowdy youths in check. Some of the perennial man-childs like me give us a reminder to, behave our age. So I'm sure you'll agree with me. We aren't going to give any energy to the nonsense drama from boxing's biggest drama queen. We don't want to talk about him.
I'm not going to mention names, but he just needs a humbling, a slap from the right person. Obviously, he's running away from Caleb Plant. He's running away from, shout out those who watched Contender back in the day. He's running away from Ishe Smith. Ishe Smith has gone out and, took on his own accord to check him for a lot of the behavior that he's been exhibiting. And to a lot of the fans that's been enabling it, this is what you get. Everyone thought it was all fun and games until now. He's calling out more things that may relate to the fans, and it's just like he was always this guy. He was always a prick, and he's been enabled. So hopefully, life humbles him, or someone else is going to humble him for him. But F him.
I think as serious boxing fans, I think we should be done with that one. Leave that one where he is. Before we do go on to the 3 shows at the weekend, there is something I want to talk about that's just hitting the news. Evening, Alexander, welcome. I somewhat suspect it's trolling, but high level contractual trolling. I mean, Eubank Jr., front runner to get Canelo next. I mean, this is Canelo he's leaning on the likes of Berlanga and other people.
No, I don't have the F Berlanga. Berlanga needs to say Caleb Plant because he was that wanker. He's another one who's a wanker that kept on, trying to goad my guy Caleb Plant. And one thing about Caleb Plant, when he says he's gonna pull up, he's gonna pull up. He pulled up to Berlanga, G-checked him, and Berlanga wants to act like he didn't get G-checked. And now that he's missed out on the Canelo sweepstakes. Guess what, Belanga? That's who you have to see now. If you want to pass, if you want to get that world championship fight, you gotta go through Caleb.
Yeah, a lot of these young cats, they want to jump. They want to go straight.
I blame them for wanting to jump, but have some dignity.
It's like, nah, you youngsters, and then the youngsters are listening. The way the real world works, you got to earn your position. Yeah, that's real life.
You know what's more funny about Belanga is how he thinks he's way more popular than he actually is. Because it's just like, I don't know what realm he thinks he's this popular guy that everyone was just like, oh yeah, we want to see Belanga fight Canelo. I'm just like, the reason why they're trying to make that fight is more because of the historical background of coming from a fighting nation, not because people want to see you. And that's what you've been marketed as. The fact that Top Rank let you go says it all, because Bob Arum just started to realize there's no money in trying to milk him. Bearing in mind, Bob Arum promoted the great Miguel Cotto, so he knows a thing or two about promoting good Puerto Rican fighters. But wait, was it this? Ruben pulls off getting that. I need to hide.
Yeah, listen, if there is truth in this, wow is all I can say. Wow, but I don't want to spend too long on it. But as you've probably read in our group chat, I'm all for this because as part of president of the Canelo Hate Club UK chapter, it serves my interest because the hate he'll get for it. Because I mean, Eubank, it just makes zero sense. He's not looked good for years. He hasn't competed at super middleweight for years. It can only make sense in the last
fight against
it was that defeat against George Groves.
George Groves, yeah.
The World Boxing Series. Big up Jams. Loved the show with Serhan earlier. So yeah, it serves my interests. Two fighters that I hate. Whoever loses is going to get no end of ridicule. If it's Eubank, that'll be him out of the game. But I just can't see it. It makes zero sense. I can't
want it to happen so badly now.
What's your reasons?
Just because, one, I don't like Belanga.
Mm-hmm.
Two, Chris Eubank's a character. So at least, you know what? If we're not going to fight the most deserving, which is Benavidez, whether you like it or not, Benavidez is the most deserving and the most challenging out of a shallow division. If you're not going to fight the best and you're going to freeze up Benavidez, you're going to freeze up David Morrell, at least let it be entertaining. Because I even said it. When they mentioned Belanga might be the guy to face Canelo, I said this might be the first fight where promoters are going to lose money on Canelo because they're still going to have to pay him top dollar and then they're not going to reclaim their money back because it's now getting to the point where with Canelo and certain fighters, he's not at the point where it's just like, we want to see you fight regardless. He's at the point where it's just like, no, like it's getting boring now. The Munguia fight didn't do it. It was the one before that. Charlo fight was kind of, I think Charlo fight was the last blight that they wanted to give him. I think that was the last one where it's just like, do you know what? You deserve an off night again. And then when he faced Munguia, it was just like, nah, this ain't the Mexican that we wanted.
Mm.
And then he tried to be like, first he was saying, oh yeah, what happened Mexican independence? Then Munguia comes in, oh yeah, it might happen next year. And then I'm like, if you look down the list of people he's fought, how many times are you going to give this guy a blight? Don't get me wrong. I get it. Sometimes boxers might want to take one or two fights where it's just like easy on the body because they've gone through Killer's Row. He hasn't gone through Killer's Row in years. When was the Bivol fight?
Listen, I don't think he's ever been through Killer's Row. He maybe at middleweight. Listen, I don't want to go.
When he was facing Trout.
By the way, Ikram, our producer, if Abbas tries to join the stream, don't let him because you know somewhere out there he's probably watching WWE or something, but he's felt Canelo's name being besmirched, and he's going to feel a need to come in and defend him. But no Canelo defense from Abbas today. He can do it on your show on Tuesday if he wants.
No, you know I'm going to stamp on that as well, because the Canelo defense line is over. It is done. It is enough. We have seen enough to know that. Listen, wait. Let me load up Canelo's box rec real quick, because since the Bivol fight, the people who he's faced is getting ridiculous now. Because he faced Bivol.
He's on pension top up tour.
I don't. This is what I've always said about Canelo. I do not mind, because where he's in his career, who he's fought, everything he's done, the effort he's put into make himself a star, make boxing big again, and give it that star-studded feeling. You deserve to have the run that you're on. However, if you're going to be undisputed champ, that means that you have the responsibility to face the best oncomers. So, from the Bivol loss, he had Golovkin. Fair enough, and I'm happy Golovkin got his big payday. But that was a past at Golovkin. Then he faced John Ryder. Fair enough. Big Mexican return. That was the mandatory, so I said fair play. Then he faced Jamel Charlo. Underwhelming from Jamel, but you know what? It was a big, big American hurrah back for Canelo. The next fight. This is where there was big contention. How the hell did Jaime Munguia get the fight when they kept on saying Benavidez didn't deserve it? Think about, whatever you think about Benavidez is wherever. In what world did Munguia deserve it more than Benavidez? In what world did Munguia deserve it more than David Morrell? And the fact that David Morrell and Benavidez have been frozen out so much that both of them have just said, you know what, I'm going like heavy, is a bad stamp on Canelo, for the simple fact that it looks like you're ducking now. And I wouldn't even call it a duck if you gave up some of those belts and said, you know what, I don't want to be undisputed no more. I've done what I've needed to. I don't even need these belts. Here, you guys have it, because I can't go up to light heavyweight and challenge them. Super middleweight's my limit. Fair enough. But it's the fact that you hoard those belts without facing the top challengers, and people that put in life's graft to become champion can't become champion because you want to do all this politics stuff, is BS. You do not believe Canelo has earned the right to choose fast at this stage. 42-0 against who? Against who?
Right, do you remember back in the 90s? Jams, you'll remember, I'm sure you'll remember him, because earlier on your show, I brought up Felix Trinidad. He had this Mexican challenger called Goyo Vargas, was it? No, not Vargas. Who was that guy? No, Ramon Yoriboy Campos. He ran up a record of 56-0 before he challenged Felix Trinidad, and Trinidad blitzed him in 4 rounds.
I'm sure he did.
There's a lot of Mexicans with 40-0 and 50-0 records, yeah? So
42-0 against who? Do you remember a guy called Zerdo as well? Remember the Golden Boy protection plan? Remember a guy called Zerdo who went up against Bivol and had this crazy undefeated streak? And then Bivol just took him for a child that he had to even go up to cruiserweight because he couldn't kite at light heavyweight. Do you remember that as well? That's not catching that listen, once again, Benavidez beat Andrade and Benavidez beat Caleb Plant. Off those 2 wins alone, that is better than any other super middleweight's current resume. Point blank, period. And the excuses that they're making to not make the Benavidez fight, I need what is it, 150 mil, I need this, I need that. The fact that you have your own countrymen going against you and legends such as Marquez, and I forgot who was. There was a couple other legends, even though I'm sure there's some behind the scenes stuff that we don't know. Yeah, go and silence the doubters. And I get it, because in boxing, there's always going to be the next person. But at the end of the day, when someone like Benavidez is head and shoulders above all the other contenders, I'm not trying to hear you claim pound for pound and undisputed this and that when you're not choosing to face the guy that's head and shoulders against other contenders. And it's not a deep division, because the division where you go, okay, who's after Benavidez? You say Munguia. Who's after Munguia? Belanga.
You know what? I disagree with you. I think in the coming year or so, I think the Killer's Row is lining up. They're not there yet. But the Pachecos, the Mbilis, the Kevin Lely Saggios. Yeah, I mean, someone like Morel. There's Iglesias, the other Cuban. I don't know. They might not necessarily be a Killer's Row, but I think given Canelo's age and now size disadvantage,
I think Canelo's good enough to beat those names. I think he's good enough to beat those names just now, and at least Munguia beat Ryder. I'm sorry, did we see the Ryder that he fought? The Ryder that took a... I think people get confused because Canelo didn't finish Ryder. They kind of forget that Ryder also took a shellacking in that fight. It wasn't a... We gave Ryder credit because in a spirited loss, you held your own. It wasn't because it was a tight battle. No, you got beat up on and you didn't give up. That's why we give Ryder credit, not because it was some spirited fight.
Jams, in answer to what you said, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But there are two things. One, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, it's not his fault that the governing bodies don't push the mandatories." Well, I think you know what, we know how this game works. It revolves around money, and if you use your financial muscle to lean on the governing bodies to do you favors, Mauricio Suleiman goes out clubbing with Canelo off, to celebrate his wins. He doesn't. And that's wrong on two counts. One, men his age shouldn't be out clubbing with 20-something year or 30-something-year-olds. Yeah. I like a night out, but I stick to over 40s nights. Yeah. That's the first point. And secondly, if you're the governing body in a sport, you shouldn't be close and pally with the competitors. You got to be like completely detached. But he ain't. So clearly he does get favors and he uses his financial muscle to get those favors. So
Suleiman was the same guy that saw Tank's fight against Frank Martin and thought, let me give you a made-up WBC belt just to commemorate the occasion. Like he's a slimy guy, very slimy.
But Ray, there's another reason I want Canelo and Eubank to happen. I reckon behind the scenes, a lot of the power brokers in the sport, especially in America, I think that they will try to position themselves to try and check the influence of Riyadh season. Because this sport, boxing, it has always been jealously guarded. The interests have always been jealously guarded. I don't think the American boxing establishment are happy at all that this new power has come in and has disrupted things. So, as you know, me and Riyadh season are enemies now. So, I think it serves my purpose on several levels. Canelo.
Whoa. Let's just add in quickly. The thoughts of Rah are those of Rah only, just to make sure that we don't get nobody else from our iBoxingHub banned from Riyadh. The thoughts of Rah only, exclusively.
All views are solely mine, and any similarities to real events or persons are purely coincidental, as everything said on this show is for entertainment purposes only. Happy, Ray? All right, you're all covered. But I would love it if they did a Canelo and Eubank fight to clash with something Riyadh season are doing. I'd love it if I could see them try and undermine.
I don't think America's got the firepower. It would be nice. Listen, I always say competition is necessary. I just don't feel like America right now, or the big players in America, shall I say, have the firepower to go against Riyadh. PBC have on their last legs. Canelo hasn't got any challengers. See, this is my thing. This is the best time if America or PBC were serious about, firing off the Riyadh competition. This is the best time for them to be like, Canelo, get everything in check and face Benavidez, because this is the fight that will bring it back to America, or North America, shall I say. And Canelo's out here saying Berlanga and Chris Eubank Jr. They don't want it bad enough. If they want it bad enough, they'll make the Benavidez fight. They don't want it bad enough. If they wanted it bad enough, they'll make the Tank vs. Shakur fight. If they want it bad enough. So maybe Riyadh season is a necessary evil before America can sort itself out and make the fights that need to happen, because look at Errol Spence and Crawford. Errol Spence literally had to twist PBC's arm and tell them, make this fight happen because you lot are taking a piss. It just keeps them shooting themselves in the foot.
I think that segues nicely into the weekend's action, because you mentioned his name. Of course, Shakur Stevenson is fighting this weekend. But before we come on to the US shows, apologies to our American viewers, I do want to talk about two shows in the UK, which unfortunately are clashing, and I can only be at one place at a time. There's the TM14 versus Nielsen boxing show at the O2. So for viewers that don't know, those are two small hall promoters they're following the Matchroom v Queensbury sort of approach. But there's 10 fights on that card, a couple of area title fights, Commonwealth title fights, things like that. I don't know, did you have a chance to look at that card? The headline is really interesting. Joel Bartel against Jordan Reynolds at middleweight. Jordan Reynolds within the trade, he's long been, talked about as this talent that that can threaten the middleweight division, but he's never really built a momentum. Joel Bartel, he's a bit of a prospect that's moved quickly. He's with Mark Tibbs. That fight is going to be a banger.
I'm looking forward to it. I've seen also. Tell me more about Lewis Roberts versus Ben Lilly. Yeah,
English bantamweight title fight. They fought before. It was closely fought, and this is a rematch, this time for a title. Lewis Roberts, he's from West Country. He called out Ash Lane after he beat oh God, I forget his the old memory banks are failing me. I forget his name. But it was on the Queensbury card. He upset the Queensbury prospect. But yeah, the winner of that will be in line. Is he the one who fought Adam Azim? No, I don't believe any of the guys on the Chris Sport. There you go. Jams could always rely on him. He follows the small hall scene. But yeah, it's a fantastic card. And it's, by the way, for people who want things for free, we all like freebies. It's going to be streamed live on Fight Zone. So yeah, check that out. So those are two great fights there. And the third one I'm really interested in is Ollie Edwards of Brixton Afui Boxing Gym fame, who is, of course, a stablemate of our own Aisha, because that's the gym she trains at. He's got a super middleweight step up against Bas Oosterwegel. You may recall him from last year. He was the Dutchman that gave George Liddard, the Matchroom prospect, quite a fight. Oh. I don't know if you remember him. So yeah, this is that's going to be a banger.
Are both these promotions both southern based?
Yes. So TM14, my mate John Trethui, incidentally, he's the man that got me into this media side of boxing. Before, in fact, he got me in to take over from him because he was starting up promoting, so he didn't have time to do media. So yeah, check out Aisha's great interview with John.
Run up the numbers.
John, super busy now, and he's doing great things, at the local level. But Yeah, he's based in Milton Keynes, and Mark Nielsen is based in West Country. He's from Gloucester. I do believe he's also the man who launched Charlie Parsons' media career. I'm sure you've all heard of young Charlie, who's now gone on to do great things with the Stomping Ground, and he's really one of the top young media personalities. So Mark Nielsen, he launches Charlie Parsons, and John Trethewey launches me.
Listen, man, you gotta pass the
read into that what you will. Yeah, so it's a hell of a card. And what TM14 have now got in line in association with Fight Zone is they're going international, and they've already advertised it. In October, they're going to do a UK v US show in Texas. The US team is being picked by Roy Jones Jr. himself, and the UK team is going to be chosen by Spencer Oliver. So this is also being done in association with TalkSport. So it's a great opportunity for sort of local level fighters, guys who are still just area level or English level at best, to get a lot of
exposure. Super necessary. These shows are super necessary to build our future stars.
Absolutely. And I do hope that this is the problem with boxing. We've always said it. There's no overarching governing body like FIFA, but we all understand that the grassroots, it has to be the foundation. Everyone can't be at the top. Yeah, the sport can't run just with world title fights. For competition to be, appropriate, you've got to have all levels of the sport. So I think what they're doing is brilliant. Because a lot of these prospects, they don't want to necessarily step up unless it's worth their while in terms of something available or the exposure. And this gives them that. So, I would urge you all fight fans to check that out, because as you said, Ray, the local area fighters of today, they're the stars of tomorrow. Some of them.
And it helps garner the local boxing scene. It helps garner local, support for fighters, cult followings. And also at the same time, listen, man, cost of living crisis, these big events at the O2, etc., costing an arm and a leg. We've got to start supporting the smaller shows for, good quality guys, show the support, come down in numbers and save the sport. Because in your many arguments against, the whole Riyadh season, one thing I'll give it to you is that you're right. It's becoming more elitist at times when it comes to a lot of these boxing shows and the access that media, let alone fans, get. So when you start supporting smaller shows, when you start supporting the local economy of boxing, the sport grows. So definitely tune in if you can.
Yeah, and like you said there, for the average fan going to these big glamorous events, and not just to pick on Riyadh season, I'm sure going to Las Vegas is beyond most people. Traveling to the US for any length of time, it is going to be very expensive. The Tank fans, for example, will always go on about how much tickets to his fights are in Vegas.
Sure.
So, if you've got to pay thousands just for a fight ticket, then clearly it is an elite level event. So it's going to be out of the reach of the majority of boxing fans. So, a way of seeing some great boxing is to support that local level. So this afternoon, I was at the press conference for the Matchroom card, which is on Saturday, the one which is clashing with my friend's show. So I won't be going to that, unfortunately. But you interested in that? Obviously, Johnny Fisher, he's very popular.
He's got his End
as well. Will you be watching that fight and that card with any interest?
I will, no, let me be honest. If it comes up under my feed, I'll watch it. I'm not too fast, but it goes back to those whole thing of like cult followings. Shout out Johnny Fisher, because the gathering that he's garnered for himself has been very commendable. So I'm sure he'll bring his people, obviously as well. Someone like Babic, who credit to Dillian White, a guy that was just there for sparring, and Dillian White basically said, "Listen, man, there's money in this game for you if you want it." So I'm all for seeing two guys get paid. Just because I'm not always the biggest fan of it does not mean I'm not in it for the fan of boxing and like seeing guys getting paid, like seeing guys garner big fights, like seeing guys garner big crowds. So, you know, to those that are interested, tune in. I'm sure it'll be a good slugfest. Knowing both of them, it will be a slugfest, because if this somehow ends up going after round 6, then yeah, it's going to be absolutely rock 'em sock 'em.
What do you make of Johnny? Again, people are split on him as to how far he can go, how good he really is. Is he just a novelty? Obviously, the heavyweight division, it's thriving, especially in the UK. How far do you think he can go?
I think this will be a good indicator to know where he goes, because sometimes you might have a certain expectation of a fighter, and then these are the type of fights where they're just like, cool. If you struggle with Babic, then at least we know your level. And guess what? We can still do nice local UK shows. If he manages to look spectacular against Babic, then I'm sure, you know, Eddie Hearn's going to be ready to strap the rocket to his back and see how far he can take it. Maybe put him on one of the big UK cards, you know, get that big Romford crowd coming after all those shows. So, this is a good type of match to this measure where you are in your career right now. I think expectations aren't too high, but anything better than what the expectations are is a bonus, I believe.
I don't know about you, but I get Eddie's promotional style. Underneath the charm, he's ruthless, and he's pretty much admitted it. I've asked him about that, like about your expectations from your fighters, and he's made it clear he expects them to step up. But I think with someone like Johnny, I think given how young he is as a heavyweight and how inexperienced, he's the sort that could have been given the old-fashioned long development. But that ain't Eddie's style. But in a way, I'm almost somewhat disappointed for Johnny himself, because I like him. He's a lovely kid. That this does seem to be almost a way of, let's see if we can fast track here, because I would have liked him. He won the Southern Area title. I would have liked him to have maybe sort of fought some of the numerous UK heavyweights. There was someone like Franco Ignatius, for example, who wanted it. You know, got guys like that. Because, as you said, if he blitzes Babic, it gives the false impression that he's, you know, that he could sort of then be pushed towards European or fringe world level, because Babic has fought for that Duff Bridgerweight title. And
I think that's the thing. That's why the fight is happening, because to those that's not in the know, that looks good. It's a good look. It's a good look to be like, oh, okay, he beat Babic. I remember Babic fought for a world title. Whether that world title was like a big deal or not,
that's the thing.
Well, it's the same way. I remember I used to tell when you know, people be like tuning into Tank's fight thinking he's a legit world champion at 135 before the Frank Martin fight. He just always used to come out with a belt, so everyone just presumed he's a world champion. And when people would ask me, "Oh, what about Tank being world champion 135?" and I'd have to burst their bubble and be like, he's not really a champion, right? And I'd be like, wait, what? And I'd be like, yeah, like that's a nice little regular title that they give him just to make the organization look sweet. So
yeah,
this is what it is.
Jams's view is British title at best, no disrespect to the Bosch army, but British title, his level for me. You know what? I don't think that should be seen as a disrespect. You know what? Not everyone can be world level. Not everyone can be great. There's a lot of fighters who I enjoy watching who are just area level, and I'm rooting for them. And I think, as serious boxing fans, we can appreciate every level. If British level is your level and you entertain and in good fights, and I'll tell you what, in the current era, British level at heavyweight is actually a very high standard, because guys who are good enough to win the British title at heavyweight, they're usually world level or world ranked, I should say. Maybe not world level is probably an exaggeration, but they often get world ranked.
Pushing it, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
You get me? So it's a good level, British level.
I think, yeah, but even I like the fact that there should be able to be more opportunities for those that aren't world level. The same way, obviously, it's a different type of sport and structure, but the same way we see with football, where you don't have to be the world's best to make a living off of it. And I would love for that to start happening in boxing, where it's just like not everyone's going to be world champion. And I want it to be where, you know, people that don't make the world level are still able to have fun fights and get paid for it. I'm a big advocate for, you know, people that may not be in the gyms. And I know me and Trey have had back and forth about this. And I've always said, listen, man, legacy is not for everyone. Legacy is not going to be there for everyone. Not everyone's able to go into the legacy position and fight for it. And even then, some people fighting for legacy don't get the money that they deserve. So I'm always for make sure you get paid. And I love for there to be a lane where there are fighters that can get paid just for having fun fights, just for having barn burners. Because, yeah, if you're going to, you know, fight in a way that takes a chunk out of your life, I want you to be compensated for it.
We should do. The reason that happens in football is because you've got the overarching body. They make sure the money filters down. We ain't got that in boxing. You're right. I mean, some of these sort of area title fights I've watched, which have been some of the best fights I've seen.
Oh, absolutely.
And yet those guys getting battered pillar to post. And let's not sugarcoat it. Taking considerable brain damage, which will have long-term health effects. They're going through that, and at the end of it, the amount of money they're getting is like a bit of pocket money. Make no mistake, at area level.
Some people that are paying to fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Our colleague in the media, Rack Noble, one of the few of us media guys that was a pro. I remember the first time I met him, because I remembered him from his Southern area title fight. And I asked him, why did you retire so quickly? And he said, it's because boxing became a very expensive hobby. Yeah. So for most guys in this game, if you are not amongst the top world rankings,
if you're not the 5%. Even the world ranking guys ain't getting paid like that. If you're not the 5%. I mean,
the vast majority of guys are losing money in pursuit of this dream. And like I said, some of them, they'll on the Saturday night put in an epic fight, and then on Monday morning, they got to go to work on a building site or a scaffolding or some other. Yeah, some physically demanding line of work. So you're right. It would be great if the earnings were there at all levels. So yeah, big up Johnny v Babic. I'm sure it'll be exciting. And it is sort of a local level fight. The rest of the card, it is mostly local fighters. The one I'm interested in is the cruiserweight Southern area title fight. John Hedges against Lewis Oakford. It's good to see even Matchroom not turning their nose up at the Southern area title. So there's
I think
him.
every now and then. I think Eddie dips into that bag just to, you know, restore the feeling that he once had
when he loved boxing, right?
No, but listen, I don't even mind. You know what? Eddie Hearn is like a Pep Guardiola or a Carlo Ancelotti in football. You need luxury managers. I don't want everyone to be the hard graft manager. I don't need that. I've got Sam Allardyce for that. I've got Steve Warnock for that. I've got Sean Dyche for that. I don't need everyone to be the half graft manager that, you know, gets it from the mud. And no, sometimes I want to see luxury guys handle the big luxury people.
Yeah.
Because when it comes time to an extravaganza, yes, it costs an arm and a leg to go to those events, but one thing that Eddie did bring is luxury to boxing, because he made big nights again. Well, for the UK scene anyway, he makes, like, I always say this about Matchroom, their production levels is head and shoulders above everyone else. That guy knows how to put on a show, and I've always said Canelo knows himself. His best entrance was against John Ryder, and it was a Matchroom show. And when you've seen his fights with Golden Boy, when you've seen his fights with PBC, those entrances do not match up. It is not spectacular. It's not a spectacular feeling.
Well, it's got that cheap look. It's got that cheap feel to it.
Oh, it's nasty. And this is what I said. So, as much as we give, you know, Eddie Hearn stick, we need guys like that, because sometimes for the spectacular, I want someone who has just as much, you know, rise to the occasion mentality to make it feel like a big occasion.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you do need every type of event. Let's just see what some of the viewers say. Mrs. Styles thinks Maisie Rose will decision or KO Yasmina Zapotochna. I think that's a tall order, because Yasmina gave Shannon Ryan quite a tussle, and Shannon is powerful for a woman at that size. Jan's talking about the cruiserweight fight. Yeah, Lewis hasn't got many knockouts or any in his 5 fights. And seeing the face off Hedges, he's a big boy. He really has grown. He started off at super middleweight. I don't know how, but I guess he was 18 at the time, and his nutsacks hadn't switched on yet. Middle-aged men know what I'm talking about.
One way of putting it, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, Bukai, you're right. Love Izzy from GPM. He does do both. So, all right. So that's 2 local shows. Again, it's great to sometimes not have a big, glamorous event. You know, we need all levels of the sport represented. So that's what we've got this weekend. But over in America, the early hours. Shakur Stevenson, that card is very intriguing. Now, this is by my understanding, is it the last fight on his top rank contract? People are saying his stock has dropped. I don't think it has. I think people in the industry know just how good Shakur is.
I think it has and it hasn't. It has in the public perception, because the way he carries himself, he speaks a big game, which he should. But when you speak a big game performance needs to follow. And to his own detriment, he has had some performances where it's just like, yo, big man, you can't keep on telling us you're the guy, and you don't give us performances to show that you're the guy. And I think that has been to his detriment, because especially I think with him as well is that we have this, people in the know have this high expectation of him. We look at Shakur and think, this is the guy who should be at a higher level, should be displaying things at a high level. And for whatever reason, he hasn't put it together, and then the way he's carried himself after bad performances don't put himself in a good light either. Whereas there's certain times, I can't think of an exact fighter right now, but there have been fighters in the past that have just been like, do you know what? It weren't my night. Simple. Like, yes, I expect better for myself. I should have done better, yada, yada, yada. But today wasn't my night. And I feel like with Shakur, sometimes it's like he doesn't know when to just shut up.
I'll tell you what, though, for someone of his talent level, he doesn't seem to be in a very strong position at all. I mean, if he's going down this free agent route, I just don't. I don't see. I mean, what he's going to be out in the wilderness, because going to PBC, they won't make the tank fight soon.
No.
They'll string him along for a long time, and maybe it might be a case of years before he gets the tank fight. So I don't think that's a good move. going to Eddie, the only really big fight I can think of that he might be able to have for him at lightweight is Andy Cruz. But that don't mean it's a big selling fight.
And even the Andy Cruz one, let's be real, that is the fight to make with Keyshawn, is not the fight to make with
Shakur. Yeah, they don't have that same history. It's I'll say that in terms of, for us as purists, we could recognize that's one of that. If Cruz goes on to be as good as we think he can, in terms of the quality of the boxing, it'll be one of the highest level fights in the game, but it won't be one that sells well. So at this point, it seems his best bet would have been to stay with Top Rank. They got Loma. They got
the other lightweight champion. I forgot how to pronounce his name.
Berinchik. Berinchik is he co-promoted by Queensbury?
I'm not even. All I remember is that he was brought in. He was brought in to basically lose.
Yeah,
and he ends up winning that fight.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. He was brought in to lose, and he ended up winning that fight. And so now he's a champion there. Where I think it's like, if Shakur stays, that guy is your title fight. If you leave, we're not making a fight with you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, promotional outfits are not, they're not charities. They're not doing this out of love for the sport. You know, for them it's business. So yeah, it's an odd situation. I'm not even convinced by the talk that, you know, if he puts on a great performance against Harutyunyan and demolishes him, I still don't think that really changes much in terms of his bargaining power.
I think it can and it won't at the same time. If he puts on a good performance, what he needs to do is a big public change in his persona. Whereas either you gotta go two ways. You either put on a good performance and act humble. I know he's not gonna be humble and act humble, or you put on a big performance and you go on that mic and you cut a promo like you've never cut before and let these people know, listen, Tank, you can't talk to me. Loma, you can't talk to me. Like, you either need to, is it going two ways? You either have to go out there and just put on a promo of your life, or you're just going to be the same guy that, I don't know how to, what's the best way to describe it? You don't want to be the person that no one cares. I always say this about Devin Haney. Love him or hate him, you care. Whether you want to cheer him or boo him, you care about Devin Haney. Like, you want to comment on him. Whether you like him or dislike him, you want to comment on him. Shakur is in that dangerous territory where it's just like, I don't care. You're talented. I don't care. Like, there's something that's not connecting with the fans when it comes to Shakur. And he's bought it on himself.
Yeah, as James is pointing out, Harutyunyan's such a tough guy. It's not likely to be an exciting blowout either. So that will be intriguing to see how that plays out. It would be a real shame if.
I'm sure Bob done that on purpose. I'm sure Bob put him in a fight like this on purpose, just to be like, if you leave me, this is going to be a fight you're not going to be looking spectacular in.
I didn't think of that, but yeah, you're right. That's the sort of thing the petty old kid would do, wouldn't he?
Bob knew. He said, listen, if you leave me, this ain't going to be the fight to look spectacular in. If you stay with me, then you've got your title fights there. And I feel like, I don't really feel like, if Shakur, this is the bigger picture of it, is this. People want to see Shakur against Gervonta. It goes two ways. Is either Shakur gets enough fanfare that they're clamoring for it and they make a cross promotional deal with PBC, which I don't see happening. Or Shakur gets to the point where he wins all the belts and he gives Gervonta no choice but to face him, because everyone's going to be like, okay, we need to see this fight now. However, what I will say is this. and I've said this for a long time, Top Rank does not know how to make stars. They know how to make good fighters or promote good fighters. They're very good. Their roster is, I always say, the best in boxing. However, they do not know how to cross the road when it comes to making a good fighter a star, making sure a good fighter has appeal. Something about Top Rank, they just can't do it. And I don't like when people say, oh, but in a way is co-promoted. That is not Top Rank's doing. The last star for me in my mind that Top Rank had was Miguel Cotto, if we're being honest. Because they even done wrong by Terence Crawford. They made it seem like Terence Crawford has no personality, which in actuality, Terence Crawford is a very entertaining guy. And just like, even though his time at PBC weren't long-lived, you saw the media run that he done after, and it was just like, oh, this guy does have personality. Where's this guy been hiding this whole time? And then you realize it's like, yeah, Top Rank didn't promote him properly. Like I said, the last guy I think Top Rank promoted properly was Miguel Cotto. And look how long ago that was.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, in the case of Inoue was famous in Japan anyway, and his ring performance is what captured the imagination of fans in the West. Some other intriguing fights on that card. Obviously, Oshaki Foster against Robson, Conceição at super featherweight. That division's looking interesting. There can be some good matchups made there. And two prospects that a lot of people rate, Keyshawn Davis and Abdullah Mason, also at lightweight. Again, that lightweight division is... Lightweights are what welterweights used to be, I think. It's the most skilled division now. Lightweights, 135 to 140. That's where it's all at, I think.
Most skilled division and most entertaining, well, can be the most entertaining. Light welterweight is starting to get a bit sexy now, but that stems from the lightweights. But I feel like with Tank being at lightweight, that is the big match to make. Tank against Shakur. And I think even on Tank's side, they're still waiting on Shakur to live up to the commercial expectation to make that fight happen. I honestly think Tank wants that fight. As much as PBC like to protect their fighters and be in the protection program, I honestly feel like Tank wants that fight to happen. But PBC, similar to the Errol Spence fight, are in a situation where they're like, make putting on that fight worth it, especially with PBC rumored to be in the hole when it comes to money. They're probably thinking, if you want that fight to happen, make it worth it. Because right now, that fight is kind of just like, I always say this, when you can tell the difference between what is a star-studded fight and what is just a big fight. A big fight in boxing is boxing purists and boxing fans tuning in. A star-studded fight is where you get your friends asking you, yo, are you watching that Shakur first Tank fight? And you look at your friend like, when have you been into boxing? That's when you get what I'm saying. And it's like we've had these conversations in a group chat. I always tell people there's stars and then there's superstars. I think Tank is a star. He's not a superstar. Tank does not have my uncles coming up to me saying, what do you think about this fight? Not yet, anyway. My uncle will come up to me and be like, yo, when's AJ fighting? My uncles don't watch. They don't care about boxing. That is that's when the superstar level. I remember growing up back in the day when, you know, uncles were going at restaurants, staying up until 3 in the morning to watch Lennox Lewis, Tyson, Mike Tyson. Those are superstar status. We don't have that right now. Too many of them right now in boxing. We've got stars. And I feel like that's what Tank needs to get to that next level. But he needs Shakur to at least reach becoming a star first so that they can both up each other's level.
Yeah, this industry, since being involved in the media side, it's puzzling just how much resistance there still is to, well, promoting from promoters. It's bizarre. But hey, listen, you can lead the horse to water, but not everyone can be safe. I mean, we've been going for almost an hour, so we will just start wrapping up. But let's just answer some of the comments. Jams is asking us, who would you want to see Inoue in with next and where? I wanted him to fight MJ. So this talk of TJ Doheny, I'm very disappointed in that. And yeah, listen, I'm loath to call such a great fighter as Inoue duck. It's not ducking, but
it's not. It's
politics. Is it? Is it?
It's politics only because Inoue himself was up for the MJ fight, if I recall. Inoue Inoue was meant to face one of his mandatories who came into the ring after his last fight.
Yeah, the Aussie guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bitched out. He said he'll take it later.
Yes, they scrapped that and said, give me MJ. Then remember, the whole Catterall and Josh Taylor thing happened. Bob Arum threw a hissy fit, and he was basically on a F Matchroom once again. You screwed over my fighter. Obviously, MJ is signed to Matchroom, so I think Bob Arum's basically said, F Matchroom, we're making a different fight. So, and I don't think this is a big enough fight for Inoue to be like, nah, I need to fight him. It's different. If this was like a commercial fight, or if this was a fight that people are clamoring for, I'm sure Inoue would have been like, nah, let's make this fight. But it's kind of like a fight of like, purists want to see it, but no one's clamoring for it. So I think Inoue.
Yeah, you're right. MJ doesn't have any sort of profile really.
Yeah.
But
it's a shame.
TJ Doheny, I mean, you know, I love our fighting Irish brothers, but Ireland's a small island. So, you know, I don't know how much eyes does Doheny bring?
Eyes are going to be on Inoue regardless. I just feel like Bob Arum's just been like, yo, we're not making an MJ fight. Inoue probably said, am I getting paid the same? Bob probably said, yep. And Inoue just said, all right.
Yeah, I guess you're right. At this point, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm holding Inoue to a much higher standard. Yeah, you're right. It's politics. That's who I'd have liked. I don't think there's any need for him to hang around super bantamweight much longer, though. Because let's be real. I mean, none of these guys are. I mean, I thought MJ was the biggest threat. I use the word threat loosely.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Biggest challenger.
But I think he's going to need to go to featherweight to actually face a threat, and there's several there. So, but yeah, that's
he's still waiting to put on size. Then do you think? Do you think he's just like?
Yeah, listen, I don't think. I mean, at featherweight, he will be hugely undersized because I would say, strictly speaking, in terms of his size, he's reached his ceiling. It's just that his ability will probably still. I think he will win at least a world title at featherweight. Whether he can replicate what he's done at bantam and super bantam, that's where I'm doubtful. I think he will suffer L's at featherweight.
I think the Neary fight shook him up a bit. I think the Neary knockdown kind of was like that reminder of you're good, but the more you keep trying to challenge yourself for that weight class stuff, it could get, it could get scary for him.
Yeah, listen, even Nery was probably bigger than him.
Oh, for sure.
Because Mexicans, they have an ability to boil off a lot of weight and rehydrate, and it doesn't seem to affect them. Like, we've seen people like Canelo do it throughout his career, but Nery would have been bigger than him, and he probably felt that. And then you go up to featherweight, guys like Brandon Figueroa, I mean, he'll get dwarfed by him.
Even Nick Ball, as small as Nick Ball is for other featherweights, height wise, he is stocky.
His bones are very thick. He's very thick boned. So
so I don't know how. I think you're right. If he goes to featherweight, he is going to pick. No disrespect, he's going to pick whoever is deemed as the easiest featherweight, keep that one belt, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would advise him to try to become undisputed at featherweight. However, he's got the mind of a champion, so he might just push himself to do that regardless. But
he will come a cropper at featherweight, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And listen, just in case there's any Inoue fanboys in there getting in their feelings,
we love Inoue.
Yeah, just saying a fighter will get beaten isn't hating, or it's not even having a lesser of an opinion of him. Yeah, great fighters do get beaten if they keep challenging themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't diminish from their greatness unless you get beaten by duff fighters. Alexander's saying,
you know what? Inoue might stay where he's at then. If the way
might
saying, yeah. He might do a Canelo, get one belt. You know, like how when Canelo beat Kovalev, he got that belt and returned right back to super middleweight. I wouldn't blame him either.
And I'll tell you what, if he stays at super bantam, if he says that's his ceiling, I'm okay with that. If he wants to wait for guys like Bam to come up, because that will also be a huge fight. Wouldn't it?
See that.
You don't?
The only reason I say I don't want to see that is because by the time Bam comes up to that weight class, Inoue's what, 31 now?
Yeah.
I got a feeling he'll be in the twilight. I won't say decline. He'll be in the twilight by the time Bam makes it to that division.
Yeah, you're right.
To see Bam treat him like how Inoue treated Donaire.
Or how Bam treated Estrada.
Indeed, exactly.
Yeah. Alex Sankey says, what do you guys think of the Tank fans demanding Inoue move up to 135? I'll tell you what I think of it. It's typical. It's Americans who refuse to give fighters from anywhere else credit unless you beat their favorite American. That's all it is. Because by that same argument, you should say, well, why ain't Tank going up to the welterweight to challenge Bud? It's the same sort of weight jump, isn't it?
It's so like, why are they so hurt that Inoue is this big star in Japan? These American fans have been so spoiled over the years that God forbid boxing is big in another region without you guys. And all these Americans become so butthurt. Like, get over it. Inoue is a great. And you know what the funny thing is? Tank loves Inoue.
Yeah.
As quiet as Tank is on other fighters, Tank Inoue is one of the few fighters where Tank's just like, that's the guy. So the irony you're trying to make them two fight is just like, get over the fact that yes, like the guy is a star in his own region. All this, so why doesn't he fight, outside of Japan? One, he has, and two, you didn't demand this for your great American fighters. No one told the great Sugar Ray Leonard, if you want to be great, you got to fight here. No one told Floyd Mayweather, if you want to be great, why didn't you fight outside? Floyd didn't even fight outside Vegas, let alone fight outside the States. I'm not trying to hear that.
So yeah, it's just butthurt, and a sense of entitlement, I think, from America. Not only the fans, but actually even the boxing establishment, elements of it.
Sure.
They will always just dismiss anyone who's not US based or actually from America. So don't take it seriously. Myself, they'll keep complaining.
Just idiots, man.
All right. I think we have had about an hour.
Indeed.
Right? I needed your stern disposition. Yeah. But, surrounded by clowns wherever I go. Sometimes I need someone sensible to remind me that life and boxing is serious. So
I'll try, man.
Thank you for filling in for poorly Ricco, who's hopefully tucked up in bed.
Speedy recovery, Ricco.
Tea or whatever it is you got to drink to get better. So yeah, speedy recovery. Your show with Abbas, you're back on Tuesday night?
Yep, should be back Tuesday night.
Okay. like I said, fans, if you care to check out some of the interviews with the fighters on the Matchroom card, I've got quite a few over at Punchout Boxing. Saturday night, I will be at the TM14 versus Nielsen cards. Keep an eye on that. Tomorrow night, I don't think we've got hard talk, but Steve, he's got something he's got something big lined up with one of the biggest mouths on American boxing Twitter, one of the biggest trolls. So I'll tell you, when he gets that sorted, you guys are going to want to get onto that on a Friday for hard talk. Monday is Aisha with Green Diamond Boxing. She's the sensible one out of us. And Trey and Chris, of course, will be back for the Sunday review. So that's what's coming up. No, Jams, I assure you, it's not him. It's not a fighter. It's an American boxing fan who'll be doing all the things we just talked about. So, but hey, listen, Steve, that's for Steve. He likes that on hard talk. I ain't got the patience for it. I know, Ray, you haven't got any patience for it. So we'll leave that one with
rest at home, man.
All right, fans, thank you so much for joining us. Ray, again, thank you for being super sub and keeping me company tonight.
Thanks.
And yeah, good night for now, and I'll see you guys next week.
Love and peace. Take care.
It's another bang. All the Muslim cars now, whichever get up. I thought my card with a sweet one.